Saddleback Educational Publishing's Flash Flood. "Bye," Zach grumbled as his parents left. He slammed the door behind them. That was an accident, but it still felt good. His parents were going out of town for the day. Zach didn't listen when they explained why. It had something to do with business. Only one part mattered to him. "You need to watch Ellie," his mom had said. Ellie was his little sister. She was 6. "No," Zach whined. "It's Saturday. I have plans." He argued with his mom, but it did no good. His parents had to go. Zach was stuck at home. On top of that, it was raining hard. Ellie couldn't even go out to play. "Come here," his sister called from the living room. She was watching her favorite show, Super Squirrel to the Rescue. Zach walked into the room. He glared at the TV. "Want to watch?" Ellie asked. "Super Squirrel is about to save a kitten." Zach shook his head. The show was silly. He could write it himself. Super Squirrel climbs trees. She leaps onto roofs. Small animals get saved. After every rescue, she claps her paws twice. That was it. Sighing, Zach sat down. There was nothing better to do. Just then, the picture changed. Super Squirrel disappeared. 3 loud beeps sounded. A message appeared on the screen. "Weather alert for Green Valley. This is a flash flood warning. Heavy rain is moving in. Stay tuned for more info." "What?" Ellie said. She looked at her brother. "There will be a flood? Right here in Green Valley? But Mom and Dad are gone." Zach flicked off the TV. He didn't want Ellie to hear any more. "Don't worry. Nothing will happen." The valley always had flood warnings. Green River was just a block from their house, but there were barriers to hold the water back. Now the storm sounded louder. Rain pounded the roof. The wind howled. Zach glanced out the window. Trees bent with each gust. It had gotten worse. Ellie looked scared. "Let's build a fort," Zach said. "That should make her happy." Ellie grinned. She forgot about the storm. The pair dragged chairs into the room. They covered them in blankets. "Snack time," Ellie called. Zach poured juice and put crackers into a bowl. They ate in the fort. "Now let's read," Ellie said. Zach read 2 Super Squirrel books aloud. Ellie held out 3 more. "Now these." With a groan, Zach agreed. Soon his throat felt dry. Ellie could listen to Super Squirrel stories all day. "More! More!" she cried. Zach thought for a moment. "I have a better idea. There's a game I used to love. It's called Jump to It. I think it's in the basement. Can you go look?" Ellie crawled out of the fort. "I love to jump," she said with a hop. She ran to the basement door and down the steps. Was the game in the basement? Zach had no clue. Maybe his parents gave it away. But looking for it would keep Ellie busy. Zach moved to the couch. Time to relax, he thought. Seconds later, Ellie's screams cut through the air. "Help! Help!" Zach jumped up. He raced to the basement door. Ellie was running up the steps. Behind her, he saw water rising. The basement was flooding fast. Zach gasped. The river must have swept over the barriers. It was a flash flood. "Come on!" he shouted. Ellie reached for his hand. He pulled her up the steps. In seconds, water began to fill the main level. First, it covered their feet. Then it rose to their ankles. "It's not stopping!" Ellie shouted. "Upstairs!" Zach cried. He lifted Ellie above the water. It was hard to push through the current. Together, they struggled up the stairs. Water surged behind them. At the top, they rested. Zach tried to catch his breath. He looked back. Now the entire downstairs was underwater. "How high will it go?" Ellie shouted. "I don't know." There was a window next to them. They looked out. Brown water rushed down the street. Tree branches floated past. "I'm scared." Ellie's voice shook. Zach was scared too, but he had to stay calm. He could not panic. If he did, Ellie would really lose it. They needed to keep moving. Up, Zach thought. We have to go higher. "Let's go to the attic," he said. His voice was playful. He made it sound like no big deal. This would keep his sister calm. "We'll be fine there." Ellie nodded. She took his hand. He opened the attic door. They began to climb. "Can the water get this high?" Zach wondered. "Wait," Zach said. He hurried back down to close the door. Maybe that would help. Upstairs, the air felt hotter. It was dark. Boxes were piled all over. Zach banged his knee on one. "Ouch!" he said. Then he took a deep breath. There was no time to nurse it. He glanced down at the door. Water streamed in through the cracks. This might not be safe either, Zach thought. He lifted Ellie onto a desk. She shivered. Her clothes were soaked. Zach looked around. He wondered what to do. Suddenly, the attic door burst open. Water began covering the stairs. "Zach!" Ellie screamed. I know, he said. Then he spied something. A hammer sat on a shelf. It was near the window. Zach knew what he had to do. In a flash, he grabbed the hammer. He swung at the window. Glass shattered. Pieces flew everywhere. A few stuck in the frame. Zach pushed them away with the hammer. "We have to get to the roof," he told Ellie. "We'll climb out the window." Should I go first? Zach wondered. Or should I get her out and then follow? The water was pooling around his ankles now. "You go first," he said to Ellie. Zach held her over the windowsill. "Push yourself out," he said. "Grab the edge of the roof, then scoot up. I'll give you a boost." Ellie held him tighter. "I can't do it." "Yes, you can," Zach said. "Just climb like Super Squirrel." "Really?" Ellie looked unsure. He nodded. "It will be okay. You'll be a superhero." Quickly, Ellie crawled up. She got on the roof. Then she clapped twice, just like Super Squirrel. Zach laughed. Now it was his turn. He climbed out and twisted to reach the roof, but the edge was slippery. He lost his grip. One hand came off. "Ellie, help me!" His sister leaned over. She grabbed his hand. "Got you!" Her grip was strong. She pressed his hand back into place. He pulled himself onto the roof. Zach sat down. He drew Ellie close. "Thanks, sis," he said. She smiled. They looked around. Their street had become a river. Cars and garbage cans floated by. The rain had let up, but the wind still howled. "Let's call for help." Zach reached for his phone. The screen was black. Of course it didn't work. It was soaked. Now what? He wondered. Ellie tugged his shirt. She pointed to the sky. A police helicopter hovered in the distance. Zach stood up. He waved his arms. "We're here!" The helicopter swung closer. Its pilot waved back. "He saw us!" Zach cried. Zach bent close to his sister. "Everything's okay now. For real." Ellie grinned. She hugged him tight. "Zach, you're the best babysitter. Thanks for saving me." He laughed. "What? You saved me." Then he thought about his parents. Why did I argue with them? It all seems silly now. "Mom and Dad will be proud of us both," he told Ellie. "Super Squirrel would be proud too."